I'ma chase success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Hi, Annie. How are we doing?
I'm
Welcome
alive.
back. Welcome
I'm
back from
here.
Ghana. Must have been awesome. Hot
Yeah.
weather,
It's
people
hot. You know what?
speaking.
The trains. It's hot. It's hot. I can't say it's not hot, right?
Where
You
are
know,
you? We
I've
can't
got.
see you, Annie.
So I've got the aircon on in the room. There's aircon on. I'm there, right? My room had aircon.
Yes.
Then my Kobe started complaining, as Kobe always does. How it's freezing the giblet stuff. I'm like, I'm talking about the giblets, please. Leave that alone. But everywhere we went, I'm freezing. I'm like, stop complaining.
Mm.
7 o'clock in the
It was
morning, you go
freezing in
outside.
Ghana.
It's not that hot.
How
It's
can it
not.
be
It's not.
freezing in Ghana?
No.
Look,
It's freezing. It's freezing because
Kobe has lived in the UK long enough to know the difference between freezing and Ghana. It cannot be freezing in Ghana, ever.
to the Ghanaians it's cold.
No, I meant to us.
Yeah, I'm saying that to us. Literally, I'm sweating wherever I go. I'm sweating to death. I'm literally dying.
Yes.
No, but it was nice. Nice weather. We ate rice all 5 days.
Oh
All 5 days.
no.
Probably for
Oh
every meal
no.
apart from breakfast.
Oh wow.
All I wanted was rice and bean stew. What is so hard? But
Why?
they couldn't.
Okay.
No one could do it.
Do you
Cristiano,
not
no one.
order it? Do you not order it in advance, at
No,
least next
no,
week,
no one,
with
no
a
one.
meal?
We tried, Cristiano. We tried.
Before you
We're
got
here.
there, not whilst you're there. You
Huh?
placed your order
What?
before you
A
got there.
country without beans? African country without beans? What's going on?
They
You
do
know,
have beans in
they
Ghana.
do. They
Because
just
my
don't really.
aunt lives in Ghana. She used to cook beans in Ghana, so I don't
Look,
understand
we went to the poshest.
what's going
We
on.
went to the Alicia, the poshest restaurant in town. No
Yes.
beans. Local
Oh,
restaurants, no beans.
wow.
William's wife's house, no beans. Our hotel,
Wow.
definitely no beans. Everywhere, no beans.
No.
No, that's the only bad thing I can say about Ghana. But I can't really blame them. Let's stop waffling. Chris, Cherry, you're here as well. How are you doing?
Hi, Terry. Welcome. She's laughing. Don't
Well,
mind us.
When it comes to food, I always complain.
Annie always talks about food. Any of food go hand
Always,
in hand.
always. Yeah. My mind was consumed by lack of food.
Lack of food. Hungry belly
uh,
doesn't make for good work, Annie.
I tell ya, you remind me, Cristiano. You remind me, right? Femi, I see you. Welcome, welcome,
See, this
welcome.
is the reason why I should have been there to make you some good food.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. Good to see you.
Titi,
Good evening, Titi. Titi is here.
I see
Yay.
you.
Miriam is
Miriam,
here. Welcome, Miriam.
yeah.
Good to see you. I've just did hi Linda, welcome. I've just done a what do you call it? A little bit of Linda Miriam is doing something really, really awesome. And I'm hoping she will come on stage and tell us about it very briefly at some point. But let's just little thing is I've kind of put a little bit of my signature on what she's doing. She so kindly invited me to do so. I know I sound a bit cryptic right now, but I don't want to give anything away because it's for her to tell our audience and tell our community. But yes, how are we this evening? How are we this afternoon? How are we this morning? Wherever you're joining us from, please do put in the chat or in the comments, I should say, where you're joining us from and what your day has been like so far. It's always good to know what you guys are up to so we can truly, truly welcome you. So, yes. Cherry, how are you this morning, afternoon, or evening?
oh, aloha, good morning. I'm actually I'm on a break in the teacher's lounge.
Oh, nice.
Today, weekdays, I teach my kindergarten class, but I had to come by to see Annie in his strapping the viewer suit. I really love your look.
Yes, I loved it. Oh my goodness. Terry, thank you. Thank you
I
for
like
mentioning the
it.
suit. I was like, yes, Annie, this is what we want to see. Why do you come to these shows looking so bland where you can look so colorful, Annie? Forward from this day forth, Ellie, you're not coming to this show looking.
You're too funny. You're too funny, right?
No,
You're too
I'm
funny.
just very realistic. What can I
Yeah.
say? You looked good.
So,
So
so,
we
you
want
got
to
to
see more of
so
it.
you got to watch the show.
Not all of it.
Okay, no, so they tried to make us do it from the front of the stage. I'm like, no, I'm going on
Good.
stage. I'm here to go on stage. The dream is to be on stage looking down at the people in the audience.
Oh
And
gosh.
so nice. We just took those. It was fun. It was fun. It was fun,
Sounds
and I got to dress like a yob. That's what I call it, right?
no, you got to dress smart, elegant, colorful.
With my trainer, with my blue trainers.
That was smashing. You smashed it. You killed it, Annie. You just killed it. I was like, yes. You know, this is the kind of things my husband wears, and like
Yeah.
colorful suits and things. I'm like, yes, you're killing it.
Thank you,
You know,
thank you.
I want to
I'll
see
take
more of
it.
it. You've no
I'll
excuse.
take it. There's a bright green one coming next.
Oh
So he said,
yay!
yeah, I want a whole rainbows of suits, but the yellow, I want one of those as well.
Love it.
Yes, I like the bright colors.
I need more of that, Annie.
The Dr. Elaine said, wear a blue or black suit. I'm like, no, I
No,
refuse.
no,
Wear a tie. I'm like, no, no chance.
because
I'm
everybody's
gonna
wearing
red
the same
shirt,
thing.
not tucked in, no tie, and my trainers is like, I think you've come as a clown. I'm like, and?
It reminds me of what is it? Are they thinking Jim Carrey in that movie, right?
Possibly.
The mask.
I said, no, this is what I dream of, right? It's what I
Yes.
dream of. So I'm glad, you two at least have seen a bit of the show, so that cheered me up. Because it's very hard to stream events,
It
a lot,
is.
you get promised lots of times that people can join on stream, but no one actually ever gets to join. And you think, what's good? The tech doesn't work the way people think it works. You have to actually organize it and put it in place. I say
Yes.
William did very well. Mr. Planch did very well.
I'm so proud of him. Like, I'm so proud of him. I was smiling from ear to ear when it comes to William. So he's I know this, like, he knows this already, but he's achieved so much in just a space of a year. He's achieved so much. So yeah, I'm so proud of him.
And for a first show as well, it's if there's one person there, I'll be happy. I'm saying that, but he had hundreds there. I'm saying for a first show, it will take it. He would. I can see the hard work that they all put into it. It's got a big team. So I met many of our LinkedIn friends there. Many of them. And maybe it's another thing about Ghanaians. As they mentioned,
That's why I should have gone. I wanted to go, as you know. I was like, I'm so sad I didn't go.
Ghanaians will approach you randomly and say, hello, can I have your number? You're like, huh?
I love
mention the
that.
conference. It's not me, it's my son.
I love that.
I think for our last day there, I went to go sit with a friend of mine to have lunch, right?
Yes.
So I sent William and everyone else, and to go and do whatever they're doing. They went to the museum. And some random woman walks up to Kobe and says, "Can I have your number, please?" He's like,
"No." It's like, "What do you want?" This is so scary.
Yes, I've come back loads of numbers for people I don't even know who they are. I'm gonna have to message them and say, "Who are you?"
It's called building connections and networking.
It is.
Do it. I love
They're lovely people. Michael's here as well. So Miriam, I'm going to send you a link. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Anyone else want to also join us?
Habari Gani.
The link is in the comments, so you are more than welcome to join us, please. I'd love to hear from you. I mean, we've got half an hour, essentially. So
yes, we do. Essentially,
let's start the show, Christiana. Let's start the show.
Let's go. So, Annie, our show today.
Yes.
This one for me feels like it continuously haunts me. Why? Because we're still using language that is so far outdated, okay, which leaves humans feeling quite negative, feeling doomed,
Mm.
in a bad state. You know, there's a noise coming out. Can we mute,
Yeah, no,
please?
I fixed it. I fixed it.
Thank you. So
That was my.
yes,
No.
so it's really important. This one for me is really important, and I wanted to bring this to the show. And I'm so sad that we only have half an hour. Penny, how dare you? How dare you arrange anything in my show space, or have a life outside of this? So
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. For me, when I was thinking about this topic, and you know, I brought this topic like some time ago. You said 10 days ago, to be exact. It's something I hear time and time again. And I know I touched on this when we first began the audio events last year. But I find that I hear people saying this all the time. The language we use, the words we use, and the impact it has on those that are experiencing this trauma. And by that trauma, I mean miscarriage and baby loss. So if you're here, if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on replay, first of all, I'm Christina T. Johnson, founder of Moving Forward Post Miscarriage and a miscarriage and baby loss coach. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for continuously supporting this community. Thank you for your time. We don't take it for granted. And we love you being here. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and we will do our best to answer your questions. So let me continue with tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is really looking at the words we use when it comes in particular to pregnancy space, or I should say rather pregnancy loss space, miscarriage, baby loss, and fertility challenges, whichever word you choose to embody. And reproductive space is another one that people tend to use or refer to. The words we use, and what I mean by the words we use, more to the clinical terminologies that we hear when we enter these spaces, when we go for appointments, when we are experiencing losses, or when we want to know more about our situation when it comes to this space. We hear those outdated terms and insensitive language that leaves the person that's hearing it, one, confused, two, shocked, three, not sure what to say, four, in a negative headspace mindset. Such words, we ask you, what are you talking about, Christiana? Let me give an example. Example of this is spontaneous abortion. Like, what does that mean? Does anybody here know? If you hear those words, what would you think they're talking about? Blighted ovum, what does that mean? Can you tell me what that means? Or the one that really gets me is products of conception. What on earth does that mean? Okay. And and the fourth one for me, this one was something that I heard and it stopped me in my tracks. And I had to pause and ask the consultant what he was talking about, right? And the word is incompetent cervix. Like, when I had to think to myself, when I heard these words, what came to mind was, did I go for a job interview? Are you trying to explain that my whole body part or my reproductive system has gone for a job interview and they failed? Not from I suppose, a human perspective, but a reality check perspective. What does that actually mean? I'm hoping that as I say this, you're asking the question. Now, unless you know what these things mean or another use of language for this, please, 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 I'm sure you're asking yourself, what do these things mean? Why do we use this stone cold language? And do we pause and think about the impact it's having on the person that we're speaking to? And let's not forget that as clinicians, you may be used to using the language on a daily basis because that's the language that you are surrounded by. That's the language, for heaven's sake, you actually did your training on. We understand it, and I get that. I'm not taking away from that. But what I'm trying to explain here is, surely there are other ways to explain this. And these type of languages should be, I would say remove, should be reconsidered. and a more positive one put in place. So here are some of the key things. Patients prefer, especially in the UK. So when I look at my research, patients do prefer using a more positive language, a more positive phrase. For example, miscarriage. And I know I do talk about miscarriage, but research shows that 61% of those that experience miscarriage would like to have miscarriage called pregnancy loss as opposed to miscarriage, number one. And 61% also found that language unacceptable. I get it, I understand it. It just feels like someone is putting the nail on your coffin even more. And so you walk away feeling really guilty. Now, here's what I want to say to 62% of those that experience this trauma have said that the reason why they prefer a different use of language is because it leaves them feeling shameful. It leaves them feeling confused. It leaves them feeling more guilty. They blame themselves even more because when we use these languages, or when we go into spaces that use these languages, we are left looking and internalizing those words. The body absorbs what the ear has heard in this case. And so it's important that we really think about, as clinicians, think about and reconsider the language you're using when it comes to dealing with your patients or your clients, so that they leave you and they leave your environment with a more positive thought, so that they're able to process what you've just said to them. Because a lot of the times when we hear negative language, what tends to happen is this: we try to process it, but it's not quite sinking in because we're trying to understand the word we just heard before we process the trauma we're experiencing. Don't forget that when you're going through trauma, by hearing words that you're not able to express and process, you're further traumatizing the individual or the couple. So this is the reasons that we're given as to why we need to reconsider the language you use in these spaces. Okay. The second thing is the emotional impact and the feelings after miscarriage in itself, let alone when you hear the language. And the research also shows and found that among people who have had miscarriages, 47% reported feeling really, really guilty, and alone. Now that's the key thing: the guilt and the loneliness, because of the use of insensitive language, the use of outdated, I believe, outdated language. And so we must try and find the best way to change this. So for me to shorten this, I know we're on time. we're on a borrowed time this evening. I'm going to try and keep this really, really straightforward and simple, and go through some of the language that we use and alternatives that we could actually use. And in some cases, actually, not just alternatives, but what the words mean. Because sometimes when we look at the meaning of things, it allows us to properly process, it allows us to choose exactly what language we want to hear, or what language these words should be referred to as. I hope that I'm making sense. And before I continue, before I go into this, can we welcome some people? Can we check and see if there's any comments? I don't miss anything in this time we have together.
That's me on mute. Yeah, for sure. So Miriam agrees with you. She says she found it really hard to identify with the word miscarriage. It was as if it's something wrong, right?
Yes.
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 You have a point, clearly. So the words we use do matter, right? It does. But I think maybe as you're saying, it comes down to meaning. But let's talk to Cherry. Let's see what our guests' views are on the topic, and then we might learn something. Cherry, welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Cherry.
Yes. Aloha. Christina, may I share my birth
Yes.
process when I had my stillborn? First of all, I completely agree with you that we need to bring humanity to the loss and treat others as if they're family. How would you speak to your family? I understand the medical community to use the logistic words, but like for example, I had a stillborn, and I chose to deliver my baby at 28 weeks, 7 months pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and the overall attitude is, um, well, are you sure you want to do this? Because my daughter didn't have a heartbeat,
Mm.
but she was but it I guess what I'm saying is when when you have a birth plan, the birth plan doesn't change if the baby doesn't have a heartbeat, because it technically, um, the physicians were, um in the moment going through trauma, stress, I wanted to deliver my baby. And I think during this these sacred times, it's important to give empathy, because we all have a right to have whatever birth plan we have, and perhaps give the mother the grace that she knows and she's doing the best she can with what she for her baby that she lost. um and then afterwards, um wanting to hold my baby, it I guess what I'm saying is treat, and perhaps this goes for the medical staff, but just treat that patient as if they're your loved one, and just let them hold space for them, and just let them grieve and process everything in their time. Um, Meaning, if I wanted to hold my daughter, I want to hold my daughter. If I want to deliver her, I want to deliver her. Mm. So I know this may be, more than you you may want to, discuss at the moment, but these shared experiences that we have will help mothers in the grieving process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cherry. Thank you for always contributing to our beautiful show. So I agree with what you said. I completely understand that sometimes it can be difficult. In fact, anyway, before I say this, I think we will have to revisit this topic in 2 weeks' time, and because we don't have enough time today to do so. So we'll definitely have to revisit this and do part two of this show for those who are here and those who've missed it. But thank you once again, Cherry, for your contribution. I completely take on board what you were saying. That's the reason why I said that we really have to, those who are, to those who we're faced in the presence of, and I speak of our, you know, clinical medical professionals, having to take the time. It's really important that we take the time, and time in this show, I always talk about time and pausing and the importance of doing so. If we pause and take the time for a moment, we get to really gauge the person sat in front of us and what they are saying, doing, feeling. Body language is really important, right? And before you deliver, or before you make a comment on what someone, on giving somebody, the news, whether bad news or good news, you have to really read the room. And sometimes that is completely missed. And I know that when it comes to birth, having birth plans and the whole of pregnancy from the start to the end, is that planning process that happens, as Cherry, you quite, rightly mentioned. Even if it doesn't come to fruition, we must remember that there is that individual, that mother, that couple, that parent or parent to be had a plan. By not really considering the possibility of their plan, we dismiss that plan, number one. Number two, by the language that we use to refer to that individual, that couple, we also further dismiss their plan. It's as if it never really happened. And the truth of the matter is, it did, because in their mind and in our minds, we hold that dear. We may have not, as I said in one of my shows, we may not have or carry the evidence. And for some, we carry the evidence, but not the kind of evidence we want. But the fact that we've gone through this process, the fact that we've gone through the journey, means that we have had that experience. And so sorry, I've got a fly trying to fly my face. And so how we care, or how we communicate, how we deal with those experiences in this trauma is really, really, really important. So once again, thank you so much, Jerry, for your contribution. What I do want to say, and I'm going to quickly run through, a few of the terminologies that are used, and in a sense, why it's so important that we use the right terminology. Also, in the sense of why it may have a negative, and why it does have, in fact, not may, it does have a negative impact on those that hear it. It doesn't land well. So I mentioned at the start, blighted ovum. What that really essentially means is that it's a pregnancy without an embryo, right? And so my question to clinicians is, why do we not say things in a literal meaning? Because sometimes that gives a better understanding, understanding when it comes to those who are listening to you. Because if you use the word,
I think it goes
Benny?
to Cherry's point. It's about talking to people as if, it's not as if, it's with care, with love, with
Absolutely
sensitivity. I think in my time, yes, I'm old. We've seen language change, right? We've seen the language that we use for people with disabilities change drastically.
Exactly.
I won't dare say many of the words that we used to hear when I was a kid. If you're disabled, or even when there's learning disability, even physical disability, the words have changed dramatically, right? I think we need to start doing the same for for pregnancy. Like you're saying, you can say what you mean with sensitivity. You can find better words. Don't just say, don't be so harsh. It's not just about saying something for them to know that thing. It's how you say it matters, right? And so everything can be said with more care, with more understanding, more, less abrasively, less. I don't know. Why would you be so aggressive anyway?
Because
cervix. What's that about? What are you suggesting?
a lot, Ellie, from the sounds of things.
It really does.
As I mentioned earlier, when I first heard those words many years ago, what came to mind was, when you're in a job environment, a work environment, a space, and someone dares use the word incompetent, right? So now think about those words and think about your whole womb or reproductive organs, and think, hold on, did I go to an interview? Is this like selective? Is this something that is happening? My service is incompetent. When did we land here? You have to really think of those words in the spaces that it occupies. It has no place in a reproductive fertility space, in my opinion. It has no place. And here's the thing. So what that truly means clinically is that your cervix, like cervical insufficiency, right? So it's about supporting your whole reproductive journey. If it's insufficient, whether it's chemical, whether there's an imbalance, there's so many factors, right, that affects this. So let's try and explain that. Let's try and say the pregnancy, there's insufficient X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is that's causing, the issue with the cervix. Or we can simply say an issue with your cervix, right? Because that is plain man's term or layman's term, as they say. That is plain to understand. There's an issue with my cervix, or there's an insufficiency, or it's deficiency, or whatever it is with my cervix. That lands a lot better than saying an incompetent cervix. Almost saying incompetent cervix. Now, here's another thing. From my perspective, it implies a personal failure. Okay, let me repeat that. It implies a personal failure, like you've done something so terrible to yourself. Because when people speak about incompetence in a work environment, it means that you lack the ability to, to be able to achieve the performance that you're being asked to, or you're being paid to do that job that you're supposed to be doing. So you're telling me that my body now is incompetent and isn't able to do the job it's supposed to do when there is an issue. Why don't we say there's an issue with this particular area or this issue, and then we can focus on what the issue is and the solutions to the issue. So this is the reason why, for me, words matter. When we do that, it means that we are telling those that are faced with this issue, and we're giving them hope. We're telling them, it's okay. We're also giving them hope to say, this is a solution. This is how we can move forward. They begin to think about options. When you say incompetent cervix, it's like the world just stopped for them. It's picking up an axe or a hammer, and you're trying to break a nut with it. A tiny nut, by the way, pea-sized nut with a whole axe. Is that necessary? That's my view. So, and it's really important that we really think about our words. The next thing is, for me, especially when we're thinking about our journey forward, moving forward, it stops us in our tracks, because now you're focused on this word, what it might mean. You're not able to articulate it. You're still in shock by the presence of your clinician. You walk away feeling really doomed and confused. The next one is empty sac. What does that mean? Empty sac. People might say it's self-explanatory, but is it really? Because you're talking about your gestational sac without an embryo in it. So why don't we just be specific and say that? Because the words you're using, empty, usually is associated with, dismissive, cannot feel, and you're invalidating that individual and their journey, because we have to think about the journey that people have been through. When you talk about pregnancy loss, or when we speak about fertility, or I should say challenging and fertility journeys, there is that validation to a certain degree. And I speak of the evidence earlier when I said we carry our evidence, right? So where there is no evidence, and you using negative words to express or to describe a part of that journey, what you are doing is you're being dismissive, and you're also invalidating that couple's or individual's journey in its entirety. That doesn't make sense to me. Especially if, like Cherry mentioned, they have a whole plan. Because when you get pregnant, you think about the joy. It's a joyous occasion. It's a time to, to share with your family and friends, and to be happy, and to begin to get your head around it, especially for those who either had planned pregnancy or they really do want that pregnancy. But then when we think about negative words, it knocks you off your feet. It almost dismisses that journey, that joy that you were feeling. And it's like somebody ripping the carpet from underneath your feet, right? Because when that happens, you fall over. Yes, the next word is chemical pregnancy. What does that mean? I mean, we understand with us being humans, our bodies are full of so many hormones, especially during a pregnancy time. We got so many hormones happening. Is that what we mean? Chemical pregnancy? Or do we digest too much chemicals? What do we actually mean by these words? So that really means that very early on in the pregnancy, experiencing the loss, perhaps that you, for some people who have maybe haven't prepared the body properly for pregnancy, or there are pre-existing conditions and so on and so forth, that pregnancy was not sustainable. In essence, is what that means. It wasn't sustainable. It was very early on in the pregnancy. There would be factors. The fetus didn't fully develop or wasn't developing properly, and so that pregnancy became a pregnancy loss. Does that tell you, or I should say, what what were you thinking when I said chemical pregnancy to what I've just explained? The two are so far apart, right? So we need to really understand the words we use and the impact that they have on the mind, followed by the body. Really important. We have to really think about that. Important in cultures where early pregnancy is not openly discussed, the use of early loss to acknowledge reality. So early loss is another word that we can use. So if you haven't told anybody you're pregnant and somebody's saying, well, chemical pregnancy, what does that mean? It doesn't make any sense. So let us start or begin to use those words that are more encouraging, more considerate, more positive. Not that you can be positive in a situation like this. But the point is, let us not leave our clients and patients feeling like their world just ended when their world feels like it's just ended from a loss. So I'm going to pause there for a moment, Annie, and I'm going to see if you have any questions, any comments that I need to address at this moment in time.
Sorry, I'm muting myself. Mr. Calm is here. Let's talk to Mr. Calm.
Yes.
How are you, Michael?
Hi. Welcome.
I'm doing well, ladies and gentlemen.
Good
Hello.
to see you.
Hello, Cherry. Good to hear you and good to see
Aloha,
you.
come.
How are you? I hope you're well. I like your contribution. And I do believe that that I do agree words do matter, especially in today's society and probably moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
The way we communicate with people has to be succinct and has to be clear because we are an emotion we now know that we are an emotional people and we're triggered. We're triggered by words and what they convey to us. Anything can happen can in any emotion can put us in a very bad situation or cause us to be in a very bad situation. When we go visit our obstetrician and we hear such words and then we go home, how are we going to behave on the way home? We could get ourselves into an accident thinking about the whole entire situation and we just become oblivious because we're worried. And not only are we worried, but we've also been given some horrible news. On top of that, it's been made worse by using language that is not necessarily conducive to positive thought. It's actually more conducive to negative thought. And that's basically brings me back to the people who actually designed these words. What were they thinking? You know, currently in today's day and age, why isn't that this has not been addressed yet? So
Great question.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
Carl, sorry. Thank you for what you're saying. I'm sorry I jumped in. First of all, great question, and thank you
No
for your
apologies for
contribution.
jumping in,
So,
Christina. You can jump in anytime, anytime.
thank you.
Any, on the other hand, he cannot do that. Go away.
So here's the thing: we won't jump into the history of these language or languages being used. I would love to do that in our next show because we haven't got the time for it tonight, but I will do. But these are historic, you know, words and language that came from specific situations and also they were taught in medical school. So they're now here. And this is the reason why I'm campaigning for us to be able to completely eradicate these words. Let's not use them in our spaces. They are long historic language that have come from certain, I would say, in my opinion, unethical practices way back before you and I were even born. Like I said, I'll talk about the history at some point in our next show. But I agree with you. It's really important that those that are creating these words, I mean, these things are in a dictionary for crying out loud, but those that are creating these words need to sit down and reconsider because there are far better words to use than we are hearing, and more importantly, it is the impact. And I agree with you. Imagine you go to an appointment, you are left with these words, and you have to get in your car and you have to drive all the way back home with these thoughts, with these words and these thoughts in your mind. And whilst you're doing that, you're also self-blaming, negative self-talking. Now, I don't want to have to tell you or paint the picture as to what potentially could happen, but you said it quite rightly. You hit the nail on the head, Calm, when you said people get into an accident. That's a reality and has been a reality for some. I'll talk about case studies in the next show that we do. So for me, it's the reason why I honestly believe that it's important that we begin to eradicate these words. We begin to really, and I'm saying this to those who, perhaps have or may experience miscarriage. If you're watching this on a replay, if you're ever faced with these words, I would really encourage you to to challenge the word that's being used. Okay, I'm happy to share with you alternative language to use, but to really challenge the words that is being used, because we need to stop using those words. We need to understand the impact it has. I just spoke about the fact that 61% of those experience miscarriage have said the preference is they would not like to hear this language. They would like something more user friendly is the word I'm going to use. So user friendly, more considerate, more compassionate language needs to be used, because I don't want to rock up to my appointment and be told I have incompetent cervix. Who wants to hear that on a good day, let alone on a bad day?
Certainly not me. I will definitely
I'll
not
leave.
be, very, very amused when I'm told that I've got an incompetent cervix. And that being the
Or for the
case,
men, yes. Sorry. Or for the men, when they say you're shooting blank, it's like, what the heck does that mean? And I'm speaking of at the moment mainly women, but I'll go into the men in our next show, because men also have the language that they use. And my thought is why.
Just imagine, lazy sperm is never. It's not a good thing. That's not a good way to think about it.
no, but the thing
No,
is that
no, but
when you hear
no,
those
but
terms, you are actually thinking that these people are in some sort of war scenario. Shooting
Yeah.
blanks? I mean, oh,
mm,
really?
mm.
Huh. Not shooting bullets, but shooting blanks. Ah,
It's
hmm.
no. It's
You're in a
unthinkable,
film.
right?
You're in a film. I'm joking.
You know,
Yes,
What's this
yes,
and
humanity got to?
the other thing is that isn't it that people in this profession, their mantra is first of all, number one, do no harm. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
what is their mindset when they're
Yes.
actually coming in
Took an
to
Yes.
oath. Let's not
yeah,
forget.
it's an oath. It's an oath that
Mm-hmm.
it totally negates everything that comes out of their mouth. And that just
Mm-hmm.
baffles me to no end. It's kind of like, What? You know that
Mm-hmm.
my mind psychologically is actually being altered every time you say a word. That triggers me,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yes.
Who's to say that
Yes.
you tell me
Yes.
something and the next thing I do is not shoot you or actually do shoot you?
Mm-hmm.
You have to take that into
Mm.
consideration too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
figured they've got to,
Yes.
it's a huge, huge problem that they have become so
It is.
de-insensitized from. And it's in, they, like you said, they're being taught in medical school. And it makes me so, so
Mm-hmm.
where is the medical school? In which field of
Mm-hmm.
operation are they? Where? Because it seems like they're in some sort of a war
Hmm.
to come up with such negative things.
And let's not forget the actual idea of medical. When you think of medical and going into these spaces, the very first thought is the care, as you mentioned, Carm, well, nicely put, the care. When Florence Nightingale was around, the care was about really caring for people, was listening, was being compassionate, empathetic. You know, the language we hear today is still a language that isn't compassionate, that's not, that is unempathetic. In fact, it's pathetic as far as I'm concerned. So it's really important that we start to, and I want to encourage those that would be faced with this experience to challenge it. The biggest thing is when we are faced in front of medical practitioners, we lose our voices because we are so trusting and we are so involved in our mind without thinking, I can challenge this. Please do not be afraid to challenge and call things out, because that's the only way we can make a change. We can actually make a real change and impact when it comes to how we want to be spoken to, how we want to be treated, how we want to be left feeling when we go to our appointments. So like I said, the next 2 weeks we will definitely have a full, a longer conversation about and discussion about this. But in the interim, I can see that Sam is with us. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here. Let's hear from you, Sam. Emmy, what are we working on before we hear from Sam?
Yeah, Annie, you got it, buddy.
Is Emmy with
So I
us?
think, yeah, I just unmuted myself. I think Winnie says, um, right.
Let me look.
Miscarriage is a great loss for me. I've had 4 miscarriages. So our
Oh,
thoughts are with
wow. Sorry,
you.
Winnie.
And
Yes.
I agree. She says, I think at this point, the woman needs the best piece from the man. Yes, again, it's choice of words, but we know what that means. It's about being genuinely
Mm,
there,
yes.
being there to support and be a source of help and energy rather than being a drain on the resources, whatever those may be, right?
Yes.
The words we use then also matter. Everything that what we say, what we do, how we be, it all counts. Thank you so much to Winnie. Thank you for joining us and thanks for sharing. Look, if you have to have a conversation, if you're still struggling, then Christiane is always there, right? So do connect with her.
I will
And
connect with me. I'll DM you, Winnie. I'm
like I
just,
always say,
yeah.
talking's free. So don't know. We're here to help, right? Let me
Mm.
stop talking. Let's go to Sam. Sam is always going to hate me, but I'll tell Sam what I'm going to tell Sam anyway. Go on, Sam. You got 3 minutes. I'm looking at
All
you.
right,
That's a minute to go.
I'll make the most of it. 3
No
minutes.
pressure.
So I'll start with saying that, like Christiana said, a lot of this is psychological. If somebody has PTSD, for example, they came back from war, the problem with traditional medicine is that they just throw pills at them. Well, What this is for the gentleman in the audience, this is the equivalent of war, of coming back from war for a woman, because you have, life is beautiful and you just lost life. So psychologically, that's the biggest disconnect that a lot of women are dealing with when it comes to miscarriages. Obviously, there's a lot of physical issues there as well. But, for example, Christiana and I spoke on a previous, and she said that she didn't even want to go anywhere because she was afraid to run into anybody that was a mom or anyone that had children. She didn't want to go outside. So again, it's a psychological issue. So to answer the prompt, why words matter in miscarriage and baby loss, well, it goes back to psychology. If someone is struggling, you have to find the right words to sometimes listen more and speak less, because at the end of the day, they don't want to talk about this. If anyone in the audience knows anyone that has PTSD or has had PTSD, it's getting them to talk about it first. So what's so good about what Christiana does is that she puts on kid gloves with these women to get them to be comfortable to speak. Because at the end of the day, as men, there's, again, triggers and terminology. There's a lot of triggers that we will cause by even having women speak about these issues. We have to be very cognizant of listening. And then when using the right words, again, it is repeating more of what they say. It's being more understanding. It's realizing that this is like, and as men, if we were to lose our child, if we were to lose our son or our daughter, that's what a woman is going through, both physically, because there's a lot of physical issues that happen with a miscarriage, and psychologically. So, I mean, even like the comment said, miscarriage is a great loss for me. I have had 4 miscarriages. So her psychology is probably messed up because she's had 4. So again, even what I just said, that could have just caused a trigger in this woman. So it's not about what we say, it's about how we listen.
This has meant
And
absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Christina. I just want to thank you because I have PTSD. I'm a domestic violence survivor, and you have given a voice to the trauma. So thank you very much for your contribution today.
Appreciate
thank you, Sam. Thank you so much. I do completely agree with what you're saying, because it's when you speak about the experience, that person is reliving that thought, which is why when I hear words like, oh, I recover from miscarriage and baby loss, there is not necessarily a recovery, but ways and measures to move forward, because we all have different triggers. No matter how long, the losses have been. We just heard or read rather Winnie's comments. Now, I would be interested in asking the question, how long ago was her losses? But the reality is, I can say to you, for somebody who, one, has personal experience in this, and two, work with clients, it isn't about, that recovery. It's really about being able to move forward, because words matter, and the words that we use can either help us to move forward or can hinder us and keep us in the same space to relieve the trauma that we've experienced or are experiencing in that moment. So this is the reason why this topic for me is one that is, I mean, all my topics are in my heart are so big, but this one is a huge one because it is still being done. We're still using the wrong words. We're still allowing, our clients, patients, service users, whichever word you choose to use, to experience the trauma over and over again, to be left feeling confused, blaming themselves, feeling frustrated, not understanding a way forward, or not seeing a solution forward. So let's do our best to reconsider the language we use. And for those that find themselves in such a space, do not be afraid to question, or indeed to provide an alternative language that you would like that clinician to use whilst you're in the room with them. And maybe they will get to learn that they could use similar language or the same language with others. And this is the way that we combat situations or dilemmas like this. Because when Calm said, why are we still using this language? That's exactly the reason why this conversation exists tonight. It's the why. Why are we still using this language? Until we challenge it, until we begin this campaign of really going to these spaces and saying, no, I do not want to be referred to, I do not want my reproductive system to be referred to as this language you're using. Can you please use this alternative language instead? We have to, if we want to see a change, we have to effect that change. We have to, fight for that change. We have to ask for that change, because otherwise nothing is going to change. There has to be a shift in our mind. And I know oftentimes when we're going through trauma, when we're experiencing trauma, when we are in a shocked system, when we are feeling guilty, when we are feeling ashamed of what we've gone through, we may struggle to really express ourselves. But here is a tip I'm going to leave with you. Write things down. Make a habit of documenting. Make a habit of journaling things. Make a habit of, when you are going for your appointment, to write the different things that you want to, talk about. When you're faced with words that are being used that you don't feel happy or positive about, or don't leave you feeling positive, really take the time to write them down, so that you can either make that phone call and say, this is exactly what I would like to happen. Or when you are faced with another appointment, you can really pick up that piece of paper and say, these are the words that you use that make me feel this way. Express your emotion, because we've got to label what we're feeling first. Then we can express to those that are caring for us what changes we want to have done. And I'm going to add an additional, one final thing is this. Sometimes when we're faced with wanting to, or plucking up the courage to address issues in a clinical or medical setting, we can sometimes get pushback. We can sometimes have, clinicians who believe they're God themselves, and they challenge or they take offense to us suggesting how we want to be spoken to. My advice to you is, don't be afraid, don't be discouraged, because ultimately you have a right to speak up. When we are born, the first thing that lets everybody in the room know that we are there is the yelp, the cry, the sound we make when we come into the world, when we enter the world. At some point, we lose our voices. And so it's important that when faced with this situation in front of a medical practitioner or clinician, we must not lose our voices. We must speak up, because it impacts not just ourselves, it impacts others and maybe experiencing this trauma. So I want to leave you guys with that thought today. And we're definitely going to continue this conversation, this discussion, in 2 weeks' time. I would like you guys to join me in 2 weeks' time. But before I pause and close, over to you, and I will say the final words.
Yeah, so thank you everyone who's joined us. Thank you all those in the studio who shared. Cherry especially, thank you. Mr. Decent Med, we'll see you. And of course, Mr. Calm, always a calm, sensible man, right? Thank you everyone. Christiana,
Yes.
great tips. It's an issue we have to address, so we're addressing it. Right. Do it quick before my wife divorces me and my son leaves me.
So I want to say thank you for always supporting this community. You guys are awesome. Without you, this show will not happen. So thank you for those who are on stage with us. And Cherry, your contribution, Calm, your contribution, and Sam, your contribution, really important. Any superstar. My tip is, always remember that you matter. That's the first thing, right? We're humans, first of all, before we become anything else. You matter. Your voice matters. How you feel matter. Do not dismiss it. And so when you're faced with these situations, this dilemma, take your time to pause, breathe, and write down. Writing helps to remove what's up here in our minds on paper. We see it clearly. We can begin to